Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional and an author from Melbourne, Australia, Kabinga Mazaba. Kabinga, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Kabinga is an international speaker, a best-selling author, and a new beginnings coach. She's an author of Confront, Reclaim Your Life. Kabinga, before we talk about your book, Confront, a few questions for you. You've described yourself both as a survivor and a coach. Can you share a defining moment that pushed you onto this path of transformation and advocacy?
Well, my defining moment came when I grew tired of living in my own shadows.
Hmm.
You know, when you have that thing inside that tells you like, this is too much. I can't deal with it anymore. I just want it out. I just
Hmm.
wanted to let go. So my old self, hiding from my old self, my pain, I kept on wearing survival masks. Could be people pleasing, or you're gonna like me if I do a certain way. And I reached a point where I longed for purpose, you
Hmm.
know. I longed for meaning. I longed for inner peace and happiness more than I feared change. So one night I think I went to bed with a question, what is my life's purpose? And it's like the next moment, it's like the heavens opened up
Hmm.
for this question I had for so many years that, and it said, for one to be better, one must master oneself.
Hmm.
And for me, it was like, whoa, I don't know what that is, but I'm willing to find out.
Hmm.
And in that moment, I realized that I didn't know who I was at
Hmm.
the core. You know, I was a mother, a wife, a friend, but I wanted something beyond that. And as I began to find out who I am, what my passions, what my dreams, what has made me to be stuck for so a long time, I realized that I can help others. After I came out as a survivor
Hmm.
and I became an advocate. And what I meant as a survivor is because I passed through life challenges from the age of 6.
Hmm.
So I survived a lot of, I was a survivor of sexual abuse. I was a survivor of generational trauma. So I wanted to leave all that behind. And after understanding, then that's when I realized, yeah, I've got to let it go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about this when come to your book. But my next question, Kabinga, is what role has your academic background in counseling played in merging personal resilience with professional expertise?
Oh, wow. My academic background in counseling has been a bridge between my personal healing and my professional calling. As a survivor, of course, I had resilience. You
Hmm.
know, I knew what it meant to walk from pain and still rise.
Hmm.
But going back to study counseling gave me the language, the frameworks, the tools to not just understand my own journey, but also how I can guide others in an ethical way.
Hmm.
You know, it also allowed me to merge my heart and head
Hmm.
with lived experience, but also having that evidence-based practice.
Hmm.
So now when I speak or when I coach, I'm not just sharing my story. My life is coming from professional foundation that ensures that my work isn't just inspiring, but transformational grounded in practice and
Hmm.
tools.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And looking back at your journey, what would you say was your most difficult challenge and what helped you rise above it?
Oh, wow. When I think about my most difficult, challenging moment, looking back, it was forgiveness.
Hmm.
And even in my book, that was the last chapter I had to write.
Hmm.
Because for a long time, letting go of the hurt, of the pain, it felt like I'm betraying myself. I felt like if I released the hurt, it would be like I'm handling my abusers a trophy that you won.
Mm,
So I wanted to hold on to that pain. I wanted them to feel the pain, what I went through, but not realizing that actually I was hurting myself in
mm.
this sense.
Wow.
So through the journey of self-knowing and transformation, I kept facing this question: if my abusers can come and apologize, would that still make me have peace? And then I realized no. Even if somebody said sorry, but it was up to me to decide, yes, I forgive you, I let go. But also just letting go of that forgiveness, just saying it within myself and say, I forgive you for what you did, even if I'm not saying it to your face, but just uttering those words that
Mm,
I forgive you, I release myself from that bondage.
mm.
And for me, that was huge and says like, war. And the moment I let go, it was like all the heavy things just fell down. And
Amazing.
that was me.
Amazing.
Yes.
What a powerful explanation you've given. Thank you. Kabinga, let's now come to your book, Confront, Reclaim Your Life. And you spell confront with each alphabet has a full stop and after it. The
Yes.
word confront is very powerful. What does it stand for? And how did you come up with this title?
Okay. Before I answer how what it stands for, let me answer why I came up with it.
Yeah.
You know, confront is not just a word.
Mm,
It's a life blueprint, and most people that they don't like the word confront. Neither
mm,
did I like it
mm,
because I thought it's something that has to be in your face, and I didn't want that. I came up with it because I was searching for something that could capture my areas of my biggest struggles,
mm,
the things I knew I was scared of, but also the things that I needed to work on. So I wanted a word that could represent both my pain and my pathway to moving forward. So this word, when you're writing a book, it didn't even have a title when I was writing a book, and the
mm,
word kept on saying confront, confront, because I'm
mm,
trying to face my challenges.
mm,
So that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna name it Confront.
mm,
But how about each letter? I make each letter, I have to think deep, each letter, what each letter, if it can represent areas I struggled in. And
mm,
I believe the areas are universal. Everyone goes through those challenges.
mm,
And then that's when Confront was born. I
mm,
was like, okay, let's start what it stands for. The C stands for challenge limiting beliefs,
mhm,
because true mastery means mastering begins in the mind.
mm,
So challenging limiting beliefs is about taking control of your inner dialogue. It's the ability to catch those self-sabotaging thoughts. I'm
mm,
not good enough. I'm not this. So
mm,
it's that. And I need it. And then the O stands for own your wants and your needs.
mm,
So it means now you're going to start living authentically within yourself.
mm,
Because when you own your wants and your needs, you stop outsourcing power or happiness from outside. You're going to
mhm.
find it within you. You're going to find your passions, your purpose within.
Right.
You know? And then the N, nurture your self-care and self-love.
Mhm.
You know, you cannot exist without self-nourishment. You gotta
Right.
nourish yourself.
Mm,
So it's taking care of your body, your mind, your spirit, and that's discipline. It's nourishing you. And as you nourish yourself, you build up more resilience. You build up inner strength. And those are the foundations for every part of your life.
mm,
And F, find your voice.
mm,
Had no voice. My voice was muted from such an early age that I couldn't explain, I couldn't talk about what happened to me. But finding your voice is an expression that you are now in charge of who you are.
mm,
You can articulate yourself, you can talk about your feelings, you can communicate your boundaries, your values in confidence. and speaking your truth at the same time, because
Mm,
that's where healing comes in. You're no longer holding on to old baggage. You're expressing yourself, letting it out.
mm,
And the R, reflect and take responsibility.
mm,
Reflection is how you turn your experiences into wisdom. Responsibility is how you take your power back. And having both reflection and responsibility, you got to understand that only you have the responsibility to change the kind of life you want.
mm,
You're going to let go, you're going to move forward, but you're going to take responsibility and accountability.
mm,
And that is the highest form of self-love you can ever give yourself, is reflect and take accountability and
mm,
responsibility.
mm,
And the O is observe and set boundaries. I
mhm.
had no boundaries. Being an ex-people pleaser, that was beyond. And setting boundaries protect your energy, your time, and your values. You observe things without judgment because you have that self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yes. And the N is navigate relationships mindfully.
Mm,
Mastery doesn't happen in isolation. It shows up on how you connect, resolve conflict,
mhm.
and how you choose your inner circle of people around you. So, mindful navigation of relationship is about emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
knowing how you lean in, how you let go, how you stand firm, you know. And the last one, the T, trust your gut.
Wow.
I have self doubt to this highest level. And learning to trust who I was within me, that gave me my power back, because trusting your gut is self-belief. And when you
Mm,
have self-belief, you can achieve anything.
very
You
well
become
said.
you become unstoppable. And
Amazing.
for me, this was the biggest thing. So Confront was born. It was a
Fascinating.
roadmap.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And you've described each of the alphabets so beautifully. Thank you. Kabinga, you've also said if you admit it, you can change it. And if you confront, you can heal. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Ooh. When I say if you admit it, you can change it. And if you confront it, you can heal. I
Mm,
mean, transformation always begins with honesty.
right.
For years, because I lived in denial, hiding
Hmm.
my trauma, thinking if I ignored it, it would just go away.
Mm,
But the truth is, what you run from doesn't vanish,
mm.
it follows you.
Yeah.
Not until you're willing to admit, to accept, to acknowledge,
Mm,
and choose what are the strategies I need to acquire to move forward.
mm,
So admitting is powerful because it gives you awareness. And that awareness, it gives you power into your thoughts, because your thoughts shape your feelings drive your actions, and your actions determine the results.
mm,
And but here is an interesting catch. If you don't confront your challenges, you keep repeating the same loop. It's like you're in this loop,
mm,
attracting the same patterns, the same behaviors, and you're wondering, why is my life the same? It doesn't change.
mm,
So it only comes when you admit that, yes, something need to be worked on, something need to let go, I
mm,
need to learn, I need to upgrade myself.
mm.
And the only way is you start confronting the challenges in front of you. That's how you're going to move forward.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yes.
You also speak about moving from the shadows into the limelight. What does this look like in practice?
Ooh. For me, moving from the shadows into the limelight meant no longer hiding in fear or
Mm,
shame or in self-doubt. So in practice, that looks like allowing myself to be seen, to be heard.
mm,
And it's not just sharing my story on stage, but it also looks like choosing courage over comfort.
mm,
Because in shadows, we tend to play small, we doubt ourselves, we worry so much what people will think or say. But in the limelight, you learn to own your truth.
mm,
And when you own your truth, you don't care what anybody thinks and say. You go
mm,
on doing what you want to feel to do.
mm, mm.
And the most important part is that the limelight isn't about fame or attention, it's about the light of self-acceptance and purpose.
Mm,
It's when you step into that power, you don't just light the path, but you give yourself permission and others to step into their light as well.
mm. Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell me more about the phrase gift of me, the project that you have, and how it connects with the themes in your book.
Well, the gift of me was created with two of my friends, and it literally carries the same heartbeat as my book.
Hmm.
Both they were born in the belief that healing and fulfillment start when you stop hiding and embracing who you truly are. You
Mm,
know, in life, it's so easy to forget about our passions and our dreams because life gets too busy, family comes in, expectations, responsibilities, and before you know it, your dreams are pushed away. So the gift of me was coming to resurrecting your gift within yourselves,
hmm.
you know, understanding that life will happen, challenges will always come, but what will keep you moving and enjoying life is remembering your gifts within your passions,
Mm,
you know, and that's what makes life living. You know, when
yeah.
you're passionate about something, you got to
Mm,
do something to make life worth living.
mm.
Yes.
Great response. Kabinga, what role does mental health awareness play in reclaiming one's own life? And how do you address the stigma surrounding trauma and mental health in your book?
Mental health awareness is absolutely central to reclaiming your life
Mm,
because you can't heal what you refuse to name.
mm,
So for so long, I lived in silence, carrying trauma, anxiety,
mm,
you know, because the stigma around mental health made me believe that I had to hide it. And
mm,
coming from a cultural background, it's a taboo to talk about certain things.
mm,
That's why in my book, I speak about it openly, because when we name what we've been through,
mm,
we take we take away its power to control us. So I wanted the readers to see that acknowledging pain doesn't mean you are weak. It actually is the first step to strength,
mm,
you know. So in terms of stigma, I address it by telling the truth, that you are not your character or flaws. You are human. Every person experiences their own traumas, their own mental health. But when we explain it, or when one of us comes out in an open and talks about it, it allows the other person also to
mm,
have that ability and say, oh, I'm not the only one going through this.
mm,
And if this person went through this and they came out of it, there's hope for me to do the same as well.
mm. Amazing. You've blended personal experience with counseling knowledge. How does this combination make your book different from others on self help when it comes to mental health?
Mm. I think on one hand, I wrote the book as someone who has lived through trauma, silence, and the journey of rebuilding oneself. This book gives authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it feels like to be stuck in fear, in shame, and in self-doubt. But also, I bring in my academic background in counseling, which means the book is grounded in practical evidence tools. You know, so readers don't just hear my story, they have frameworks
Mm-hmm.
that can help them in their own lives as they are on their journey of healing and limit and challenging limiting beliefs.
Mm,
So there is that practical way of there's a balance. There's a story. It's not just too deep or too powerful, but there's hope.
mm. Very
So
interesting.
I give both that
Yeah,
balance.
yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. I have time for two more questions for you. How can journaling, reflection, or storytelling aid in recovery from trauma?
Ooh, and actually, that really did help me a lot,
Mm,
especially storytelling and reflection and journaling.
mm,
Um, Journaling gives you those thoughts and emotion a place to land in. without judgment. So when you're writing, you're emptying what's heavy, you know, and you can finally you can start making sense of it. Like when you put it, there's power in putting it on the paper. It's like your mind is expressing itself and you're able to see like, yeah, this is helping me to express myself. Reflection allows you to pause and notice patterns, to see how your past experiences have shaped you, your thoughts, your choices. And that awareness is the first step to change. And storytelling is about reclaiming your narrative. We tell our narrative of pain, of trauma, of everything. But when you're storytelling, you're also adding power to it. That painful story is
Yeah.
losing its grip.
Yeah.
So it's very different. So when you share your story, writing down, it really helps in
Absolutely.
terms of you
Absolutely.
become the victor, not a victim. Yes.
Absolutely right. And my last question for you, Kabinga. If your book could spark one shift in society's view of trauma and recovery, what would you want it to be?
Never be afraid to discover who you are,
Hmm.
because the bravest thing you can ever do is meet yourself fully
Hmm. Hmm.
with scars, with strengths, and all that, and still choose to rise.
Wow. And on that note, and your very powerful words, never be afraid to discover who you are. Kabinga, thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for speaking to me about your book, Confront, Reclaim Your Life. I think you explained so many different aspects of challenges that each one of us goes through and find it difficult to really face our fears, to confront our lives. But your wise words, your words of wisdom, drawn from so many years of experience, will, I'm sure, be of tremendous help to so many of my viewers and listeners. Thank you for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.